So we got some questions from Yvonne, from BB. There's half a question there. And then if you can mute yourself. Perfect.
Try to see Jennifer.
Let's see if we can mute everyone. See if we got it. So there's a simple question by Veronica. When does the Johnson & Johnson come out? They should get approval within about 2 weeks. And after they get approval, then you have to do the manufacturing and items. And they're thinking that maybe June or July, but I've heard of some delays. So I'm thinking June at the earliest for the Johnson & Johnson. So now in terms of the other questions, I've seen them and the preference, I've seen the ones about autoimmune.
Oh, is it working?
And then, and again, if people can mute themselves, that will be helpful. And then in terms of autoimmune again. So let me start with this. Let's give some new information. So I've been a hawk trying to learn some of the new stuff out there. So the first thing is kind of interesting is let's paraphrase what's going on in the COVID world that helps us understand vaccine and how it relates. And so what we're finding interestingly is this. 25% of all the deaths of COVID happened in the last month. So yes, we may have some numbers going down, but what's happening is we are still having a lot of not good things happening with COVID. Number two, which is kind of interesting, have people heard of the monoclonal antibodies? And it's almost a rhetorical question. I apologize with the chat box to some degree. But if you want to answer chat box, please do so. And so with the monoclonal antibodies, it's one of the good treatments right now if you have COVID-19 based on standard of care. And what we're finding is that with the new three variants out there, the UK, South African, and the Brazil, and I think there's a fourth one coming out too, but that the monoclonal antibody, that treatment is working a lot less right now. And so because of that, what is happening? And I think that they were saying that, so that one treatment may not be as good right now that we had in our back pocket that we may have had before. Very interesting was I saw something is in the USA Today about comparing COVID-19 to World War II. So more people have died in the US of this than in World War II, and at a faster rate. So I'm saying this not to scare people, but to make this is something real that so I came from another clinic today, seeing other patients and almost all of them are saying they either had COVID, someone in their family had it, or someone passed away from it, or sick or something. So what I'm trying to say is this is real, and that we have to make for ourselves a decision. How are we going to do our best with it, with the vaccine or without? It doesn't matter, but this is something real that's out there. What's kind of interesting, there is a great institute. It's called the Institute for Healthcare Metrics out of Washington. And what they said was this. was that if we got the vaccines according to what the country says, the guidelines, we would save 40,000 lives in America between now and May 15th. And I trust this institute because I've been following them since last March. Let me talk about something else I read about recently. And then I'll start with some questions that we've gotten so far. One of the things I've seen so far, there's been this idea of herd immunity. And let me explain what herd immunity is. And we've heard a lot about it in the news. Herd immunity is saying that if a certain amount of people get the vaccine, it protects people who don't get the vaccine. So then we're helping the whole society out. So one idea of the vaccine was that if we get it, we're gonna be helping out the whole US or the whole world. So one question came up was, this vaccine was never studied for herd immunity. So we don't know if it's gonna help out other people. We only know that it's gonna help ourselves out, or may or may not. And so that was one reason why people were not getting the vaccine. And that makes sense. They actually now looked at data, which I love this, looking at data both ways. And I'm gonna go over side effects of the vaccines too, which is like, wow. The country of Israel has the highest rate of vaccinations. So at this point of the study, it was around 20, 30%. US, we were around 3%. They took the number of people, 200,000 people that got vaccinated versus another 200,000 that were similar. They dropped the rate of people getting COVID by 33%.
Wow.
Yeah, that wow was, I was like, whoa. So that the thought is there could be actually herd immunity going on, which is kind of cool, which may or may not give people information to make a decision. Interestingly, Lisa says that there's a fourth variant in Columbus. That's good to know. I hope it's not the Columbus variant. That would be not good for us. But with the 3 new variants, and probably a fourth, probably a fifth someday, I've not heard about fifth, I heard of fourth, early stages, was that one researcher was saying to get herd immunity in the US, we would need to be 70% of us getting the vaccine. With the new variants, it's up to 85%. And we're at 3%. So again, just some flavor. Let's now talk about going through some of the questions I've gotten in the chat box already. So I got one from Yvonne saying, if my husband gets the vaccine, but I have to wait, but I'm autoimmune because I have anaphylactic, does he need to be quarantined during the process? If a husband gets a vaccine, but I have that. Okay, got it. Your husband gets, so this is a great question. Let's say your husband gets a vaccine, but you don't get the vaccine. What happens to the husband and wife? Great question. So none of the vaccines out there, I'm talking the 2 US ones plus the 2 new US ones coming out, the German one, the UK one, the 2 China ones, the 2 India ones are the ones I've known so far. None of those are live. And what does live mean? It means that they actually give you the virus, and then your body goes to attack the virus. This is a not live virus, or not a live vaccine. So like the MMR is live. This one is not live. So I have not seen any data to say that someone with autoimmune or anaphylaxis need to quarantine themselves for your husband. It might be a good excuse to quarantine yourself from your husband, but you know, But don't say Dr. Kanodia said that. Don't get me in trouble. But I have not seen any data saying that at this point, especially because of the science of it not being live. I think I answered Marianne's question. Will you have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and know how to get it? So in my office, we are not getting any vaccines, and I don't think that we'll be getting it. I think there's a lot of logistics and yada yada on that. And how do we get it? They have, again, it first has to be approved, and then they have to start making it, and then they start rolling it out, and then every state's going to do it differently. So there was just study, I just saw an article just right before I got online that people are taking vaccine vacations, meaning they're traveling to Florida, going to a Publix for their vaccine because they can't get the vaccine here in Columbus or something. And I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying what I see in the news. So the question that I see from Tammy is, if you have an autoimmune disease, can you get the vaccine? So you can definitely get the vaccine. The question is, was the Pfizer vaccine or Moderna vaccine tested in autoimmune patients? We don't know. So it was tested on healthy people. It's going to take some time. They called aftermarket results to see what happens to those people. We know already autoimmune patients have an imbalanced immune system. What does autoimmune mean again? Our body's attacking itself because of something else looks like it. So one example is our thyroid. There's something called Hashimoto's. So our body will attack our thyroid because maybe our thyroid looks like gluten or looks like dairy. So our body thinks our thyroid is going to kill us, so then it attacks it. That's what autoimmune is. So are there things we can do to help mitigate autoimmune? If you have autoimmune and you want to get the vaccine, the answer is yes. And whoever said that question read my mind. And let me see, since this is Zoom, I know Zoom okay versus the new software. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I think people can see my screen. And if that's a yes, can someone say yes in the chat box? Thank you for being a give and go audience. This helps me out. So if you have autoimmune, we're recommending at least 3 things. And let's see if I can make this bigger. And I'm going to minimize this. So 3 things. We call it GI Complete. We call it SPM Actives and Lymphtone 2 and 3. I'll explain. The GI Complete is a supplement, comes in pills and powders that helps and let me say why I'm going back to this GI Complete. The second biggest part of our immune system is our gut. And so if our gut lining isn't optimal, that's where a lot of the autoimmune comes from. Many of us have heard from leaky gut. So if I can protect the gut, then what then can then happen is I'm going to have less issues with autoimmune reaction to the vaccine. So this GI Complete, to keep it simple, helps aligning the gut out on all various areas: stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. Next, autoimmune is on the spectrum of inflammation. And one of the things we find with inflammation and autoimmune is imbalanced immune system. So something that I have found to be the best, if I picked one supplement, has been the SPM actives. That lowers inflammation, less autoimmune. Lastly, we find detox. If detox isn't optimized, we get more autoimmune. Most people forget the lymphatic system, part of the autoimmune. They think of liver, they think of kidney, we think of skin, we think of breathing and sweating. There's actually more than that. And probably the biggest part is lymphatics. That's why we use a lymph node 2 and 3. So if I was an autoimmune patient and I wanted to get the vaccines, I'd be doing these for at least a week before so that I'm getting my body to make less of a reaction, but also make an appropriate reaction to it. I'm gonna stop my screen share for now and jump to other questions. I hope that answered that autoimmune question, at least to part of that. Now I want to go to I asked that, do you have a preference of the vaccine companies? This is a great question. And what did I do? I looked up all the vaccines, and with looking up all the vaccines, let's give you some information. I even have some pictures. Okay. I'm gonna do a screen share again. Screen share, desktop 1, share. Okay, you guys are probably, whoa, what just happened? Okay, you guys are probably gonna see my screen here. And if someone can just say yes in the chat box, that would be helpful. If you guys are seeing my screen. And chat. Yes, okay, good. So these are, let's see if I can minimize this, admit Mary. Okay, these are some of the companies that are out there. We've heard of Pfizer, biotech, where was that? AstraZeneca is one of the new ones. And if someone can mute Mary, thank you. GlaxoSmithKline, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Moderna, Novavax, and Sanofi. Okay, so let's see if I can mute her. Mute. Okay, I think it's muted. Okay, great. So the Oxford one is one of the two that's one of the two of the new ones we hear about in the news. That's the UK one. And you can see the effectiveness, 62%. All right, whoops. 10 to 90%. I don't want to say, and the cost is very low. That's the one that is going to probably be doing in a lot of the countries around the world on the low cost side. What are we seeing? In my opinion, I would say less effectiveness. And I have some more things on that one. Okay, so the AstraZeneca one. So what is really nice about that one is that it uses a way that we already know to make vaccines. So they took the cold vaccine and they did their science and they modified it so it can be made into this vaccine. So it wasn't a new technology per se, like we're hearing of the Pfizer and the Moderna. It's a DNA, so it takes longer. It's very inexpensive relatively, and stable for 6 months at a normal temperature. But what I have found is the effectiveness rate is around 70%. Again, there is controversy on that, but that's what I'm finding of that number. So I see Jennifer's things. Does the RNA, and we'll come back to this here in a second. So the two RNAs are Moderna and Pfizer. Will the RNA damage our DNA? I have not seen any data like that. If there was, I would tell you. No one's paying me any money to do this. So that's the AstraZeneca. It's a proven system, but lower effectiveness. And let's take the big picture, right? What is the most effective way is to get healthy, right? If we take care of, I'm going to do this for a second. Stop the screen share, right? So everyone, just what are we talking about health, right? The vaccine is the 1% of the solution. How we live our lives is a 90%. The vaccine's an important component for a lot of people. I'm not saying for or against it. And maybe the vaccine's more than 1%. So take the numbers out. But so I don't want to be quoted for that. The vaccine's important, pros or cons both ways. With that being said, the number one thing is how we take care of our health. There's a great study. Hopefully I'll get to it tonight, maybe next time we talk. And maybe next time that technology will work also, is that our sleep is important. Waking up without an alarm. Great data on vaccine effectiveness with that. Our exercise for overall health, right? All the basic things we know are nutrition. But the same data also makes the vaccine work that much better. So the number one thing, if you leave with this, is this here. I want you to answer 2 questions. And I want you to write down, grab a piece of paper, get your computer out. This is the thing you want to learn tonight. I'll give everyone a second. So it looks like everyone on this screen is ready. Everyone on this screen, if I can see pictures, are ready. How much of your day, question number 1, are you in bliss, happiness, and joy? Write down that number between 1 and 0, 1 and 100, or whatever you want to say, right? 1 hour a day, 10 hours a day, 24 hours a day, or 0, or whatever. And no peeking at husbands or wives. I saw that going on there. This could be a private matter. If they want to share, they'll share. Question number 2, how much of your day is spent in stress, anxiety, anything that's negative? Overwhelmed, hurried, rushed, feared, sorrow, anger. You know what I'm talking about. Negative affects. And write down that number. Half the day, a quarter of the day, 50% of the day, right? Write that number down. Okay. So the Jeopardy clock went off. Let's start talking. Healing and life happens in the bliss, joyous state. Illness happens in any negative affect. Fear, stress, whatever, right? I could have been stressed out for the first 15 minutes tonight, right? I invited all these people into things and it's not working. I'm like, I can't control it. So did another link. It is what it is, right? So what we find, probably, and I found a study to back this up, the #1 killer of early deaths in America is stress. If you take what causes heart attacks, strokes, cancer, autoimmune, right? The connection between all those things. In my office, I see 80% to 90% of my people are saying they're having stress. I see 0 here. And I'm saying a big fat 0. So if you said, what is the #1 thing I would do to prep for the vaccine? If I look at the data, and the amazing data is from actually OSU researchers, the Glazers. They are amazing researchers. And they have this great article. And I will post the article. Have that link. Oh, it's a download. So it's not public yet. I don't think so. This is, yeah. So there's not a really good download right now. It's it's not I don't know how to do that. It's a PDF of something's gonna be published here in a few weeks or a month. But basically it's the stress is the #1 thing that stops the immune system from probably working to actually make the vaccine effective. And the more stressed you are, the lower your immune system are, the more likely you are to get COVID or have a bad response to COVID or be a long hauler. So if your number is that you feel stressed, anxious, any negative affect above, I would say 20% a day, right? Let's not even worry about bliss. Let's talk about just this, right? What would I say, right? I'd probably do 2 tests to keep it simple. I would check your adrenals, the Dutch adrenal testing that we do in the office. And I would check the brain hormones, HPA testing, the neurotransmitters. And I'm trying to see is there a biochemical reason for the stress or anxiety? If there is, then we would then help that. And that we would then be able then to work on that with supplements or whatever. So yes, Dwayne, it's the Glazers. I think it's called Kiko and Ron, their husband and wife out of OSU. Something like that, the Glazers. But if you look up the term psychoneuroimmunology, OSU, the Glazers, you should be able to find them. Yep, Janice, here we go. Here is one of them. I'll put in the chat box. So if you guys want that test, email me in the chat box or text me, not text, write in your chat box your email address, then we'll contact you about that. There's supplements we can also do for that. But that's the #1 thing, big picture. And I always want big picture. Is there a video from the last week's webinar? Jennifer, yes, there is. If you go to our YouTube link, our YouTube channel, we have a YouTube channel. And on there, there's a replay. And Jordan, if you can add that to the chat box, that'd be helpful. So I've been very passionate about bliss, very passionate, right? That's enlightenment, right? Game, set, match, if you talk about tennis terms. So what did I do? I found a course that I love. This is totally off topic of vaccines and I don't care, right? This is my webinar. And so this is the important stuff to me. I want to get you guys healthy, happy, end of the day. That's why I care. There's a guy named Jeffrey Martin. Write this name down. He wrote a book called The Finders. And there's something called the Finders course. That's what I took. I'm almost toward the end of it. It's a 4-month course. It was like 15 hours a week of added work. That was a lot. That course, they've compressed it to a 6-week course. It's called 45 Days to Awakening. And if you just Google that, you should be able to find it. It's a reasonable cost. And if people like to go through that, if there's enough people, contact the office. I'll write down an email address. And we might be able to figure out a way to lead a group through that or something to help that process out. But that gets you here in the bliss state. That speeds up healing exponentially. And I did that and I love it. I feel much more here than I've ever done. I would have freaked out last time or get really pissed off if my audio wasn't working before, like really pissed or angry. I did not. No yelling, no screaming. So let's go back now to the other parts of this. Some more screen sharing. And okay, so the Moderna, you guys can see there, that's the RNA, and I'll come back to that. 95%, it's about $33 a shot. The Pfizer RNA, 95%, $20. I've heard up to 33 too. And this is the German version, the viral one, about 92%. And let me go through some of the information on these. The Pfizer one, let me have a picture. I hope you guys can see my picture. Okay, so the Pfizer and the Moderna are here in the top left. They take a piece of it out. Basically, there's 25 pieces of RNA that make the spikes. They're taking out one piece, and the body makes the immune system, so when it sees it, it can attack it. Now, the AstraZeneca, which is the new one coming out, that's the UK version, the Johnson & Johnson. They're here in the upper right. They're the viral vector. So I think you guys get the Johnson & Johnson. I think you guys get the Moderna, Pfizer. That's been enough in the news. The Johnson & Johnson is just like the AstraZeneca because it takes the cold virus and does science to it to make a piece of spike, and that becomes the vaccine. They've actually used this before in other vaccines, like the Ebola vaccine. So if someone wants something proven, the Johnson & Johnson may be a better route for you if you like proven stuff versus the more, RNA stuff. But I'll come to some of the side effects of Johnson & Johnson here too. There's one called this, on the chart, there's this Novavax. It takes a fragment of it, and that one looks like it's still in studies. Like, I don't think it's actually out. I've not seen anything about it. And what it does, it takes a part of the virus, and then it puts that into your body. It's still not live. You can't give it to your husband or wife. And your immune system makes a treatment for it. Immune system bumps up, yada, yada. It does the same approach as we use with some flu vaccines already. So that's already proven. And with other vaccines too. One is the flu block was. The German one I don't think it's on this chart that I can see. So what's also nice is, let's call things true. This GSK, I can't pronounce it very well, GlaxoSmithKline, that one failed in the US. So that's not on the market. Well, so that's great for the US. Now these ones here, the China ones. And I'm not gonna be political, I'm gonna tell you the numbers. China ones, so there's 3 parts of something getting past the FDA. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Once the phase 3 is done, then the FDA can say, yes, it's approved or not approved. So what are other countries doing? So China didn't even have phase 3 done and started using that and saying it's an approved vaccine. And then I guess it went through phase 3, was finished, I think in December or something. But all the data wasn't there. The India one, there's 2 India ones. They're still in phase 2. And they're ready to launch and they're all this stuff to send them out. And they're using it on their population. I think like 700,000 people got that vaccine. And again, in our phase 3 studies, it was 74,000 total versus 700,000. And that's not a study, but they're launching it. And so I like how in America, we have all 3 phases done. We have the FDA looking at it and then saying, yes, it's good or bad. Where in other countries, they're launching it before all 3 parts of the study has to be done. So the China one, the data I'm seeing is around 79% effective. And what the China one does is a very classical way of taking vaccines. They take the virus, they weaken it, and they put that into your body. It's still inactive, it's not live. So that's a very classical way, but it's not as good. It's not the 95%. It's whatever that 79% is what I found. The Johnson & Johnson I'm finding is close to that 95% also. Let me see if someone can admit Patty in here. I don't know. Or not, admit. 2 people and view, admit, okay. No, keeps sharing. Okay. I apologize for my tech. This is not my day job. Okay, what's going on? Okay. Close this. Okay. That's all we want to know there. So now, let's talk about, I find this interesting. I'm gonna stop screen sharing now. Okay. We've all heard that these vaccines have minimal side effects, or at least the serious ones, under 1%. What about the non-serious ones, the other things that I talked about last time? Arm pain, fatigue, fevers, chills, joint pains, other things. I found a study. Let me see if I can pull it up. Here it is. Okay. It's in the #1 journal for medical doctors called the New England Journal of Medicine. And in this study, they looked at the most common side effects. And they broke it down between ages of 18 and 55 and above 65. And they had a high dose, low dose. That's kind of confusing. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to talk about the people between 18 and 55. It was similar above and below the ages. Let's not get in the minutia. So it's great. 90% of people had the antibodies within a month. That's great. Much better than the ones I'm seeing out of China, out of India, et cetera, and out of the UK. So I'll talk about fever, fatigue, headaches, muscle aches, and pain at the shot location. those are some of the big ones. So they found fever in 20% of the people. And let me back up for a second. Let's go back to the big picture. Big picture is fun. Let's talk about the flu vaccine versus COVID-19 vaccine, whether it's Moderna or Pfizer. And let me find my data. Okay, here he is. Okay, this is great. So last flu season, the number was 180 million flu shots were given. I think a US or whatever number. These are comparable numbers. 9,500 adverse events were reported. This is computer software that people can, report events. I think it's VARS or something, VAERS or something. So whatever it is, right? So December 31st, we gave 4 million COVID-19s in America. Over 4,000 people complained of side effects. Not the ones going to the hospital, but these other ones we're talking about. So we're getting already half the amount of people are getting effects. And the difference is between 4 million people and 180 million people.
Wow.
Yeah, and so what the data is, and I'm not trying to sound alarmist, but let's put this into perspective, right? Let's hear it both ways. Is this a 3,500% more side effects with the COVID-19 versus the flu? Meaning, how many people do you know miss work because of the flu vaccine? I don't know many people that miss work because of flu vaccine. However, I was talking to one patient, and she knows who I'm talking about, and we were talking about the vaccines and how it's affecting nurses or staffing. In one department, in one hospital, somewhere in the universe, and half their staff in one department had either call off sick or something, needed a day of rest after the vaccine. Nothing serious, but still enough to, so this packs a punch, and a bigger punch than the flu vaccine. So so I want to know that, big picture wise. Now let's get the fine details. So there's a couple questions. So let's go to this question here. So before we get to Angie's, let's go to Anne's. Wouldn't it be safe? Wouldn't it be rather be safe from the virus for a year and have side effects for a few days? That's a great question. We don't know how long people are safe with a vaccine. We know that the data is about 42 to 60 days to 70 days. That post-market testing, we don't know how long it's going to be safe for. And it could be longer. Second thing, this is only tested on healthy people. So a lot of people on this phone call either have inflammatory, autoimmune, some type of chronic illness. And if your immune system is low, or if you're having that high stress, your immune system will not make an optimal response to the vaccine. So then you might not actually have the protection that you're actually getting. Why do they test with healthy people? Because they say, yes, your immune system is good, so you'll mount a response. People that have illnesses may not mount a response. And we'll come to that here, but what we should do. Maybe now's a good time to do that. It's 5:58. They wanted me to end it an hour. Maybe I'll go a little bit longer tonight. Um, I'm going to do screen share. Okay, let me minimize this. And let's see here. Let's close this. Don't know what this is. This. Okay, I apologize. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. So, I don't know why it's here in the middle screen here. Okay. So this is what we're doing. And Jordan, if you could put a link to this in the chat box, that would be great. But what we're saying is this. Oh, before that. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but I want to make this meaningful. Let's go through side effects again. And this is not I'm not a professional at this, right? At nights and weekends, I'm reading articles. The daytime, I'm seeing patients. So bear with me. Let's go through some of the side effects of the vaccine. 20% of people were getting fevers on the low dose of the Johnson & Johnson. And they're saying that's similar to the Pfizer and the Moderna. 45% of people are getting fatigue. And could that be for a few days? Yeah. Could it be for longer? Maybe 2. I don't know. They didn't say that. 45% of people were getting headaches between the ages of 18 and 55. The high dose was 70%. And 40% of people were getting muscle aches between the ages of 18 and 55. And probably these are probably things maybe a little bit, maybe more or less above the age of 65. And then the local adverse events, like you take the shot here, rashes, pain, swelling. And I believe one person on this webinar I know, don't mention, said that they got a rash at the vaccine at the first dose. And that was around 65% of people getting it. And that's maybe a day or two, or it could be longer. And what we're hearing is the second dose is a bigger punch. That's when a lot of people are missing work or those other things. So if you're thinking about getting it, don't plan to get the vaccine and be 100% that day and the next couple of days. Treat yourself, feel how your body feels when you get it. Means that if you need to rest, rest. And the second dose, definitely plan in a 1 or 2 white space or days of break or easier days in your schedule. Based off all this stuff, I've been putting together and emailing my team to make these things, and the staff's all like, I'm changing protocols all the time because of the new research, but we've been making some protocols that I think are really good to help the body out. And these protocols, I look at it as, if you're getting the vaccine, and even if you're not getting the vaccine, how can you keep your body healthy during this time? Let's keep it simple. Okay, I think you guys can see this. So I break this down in a couple things. One, if I had to pick the 3 biggest tests, I want to check your gut for leaky gut and your immunoglobulins. Basically, since a lot of people on this call are having immune system, autoimmune, inflammatory things, I want to see where your leaky gut is. Second part is, people have heard about immunoglobulins. I talked about it last time. That's the bullet for the guns. So basically, when we get the vaccine, we have to have quote unquote immunoglobulins to actually make our defenses. If you don't have enough immunoglobulins, you can't do a good job making the vaccine work for you. And it's gonna wane a lot quicker. Also, if you have too much of an immunoglobulin, the IgG one, That's the one that's causing the allergic response. So we can see if you're going to have an allergic response early. If so, then you can then see an allergist or someone to decrease your response to a PEG I talked about last time. That's number one. Number two is your stool study. That's the number two place our immune system is. And I can again measure immunoglobulins there, measure your gut, and measure your probiotic levels. If you're low in probiotics, you don't have a proper immune system. And as we know, for every cell in the body, we have 70 trillion cells, they estimate. For every one cell, there are 3 good bacteria. So we're actually probiotic. We're not cells of the body. So if those probiotics are not normalized, we will not mount the proper response to the vaccine. And also preventing COVID, long haulers, et cetera. Next is checking your vitamins and minerals. We all hear vitamin D, I even talk about vitamin D. You hear about zinc, you hear about C. Those are the things you hear about, right? I just saw a new study this morning at 5 in the morning about niacin. I saw one today at 3 o'clock about vitamin K. And so basically, if your niacin's not level, your B level or not, your B vitamins are not level, you can't make an immune system response. Your vitamin K's aren't level, you can't do this. You can't, your immune system's not balanced, higher likelihood of ICUs and yada, yada, yada. If we can mute that person, let's see.
Well, that's one reason she wants to work. I mean, PGIM has a good reputation.
Can someone mute that person, please?
At least sticking around. And now, when do you think this will be issued? And I think you're going to present it to her, right?
Okay. Me. Okay, mute this one. Mute. Okay, back to this. Before we go screen share, does everyone understand that testing? And please in the chat box, say yes or no to that. Yes. Okay. The only caveats on that there, right? What supersedes those 3 tests? The question that you answered on that piece of paper. If that negative affect, that stress, those other things, I say above 20%. I'm not even asking you to be in bliss. Then working on the stress is critical. That affects all of those things. Those are the 3 tests. So the Dutch adrenals and the HPA test. And Nicole in my office can help, the front desk can help, yada, yada, right? And the supplements we give, you guys all know about that. If you guys don't know, contact the office, I'll tell you. Okay. And so the idea is that to personalize this, because every day there's a new vitamin or mineral that everyone needs. And it makes no sense to give everyone the same thing. So what we have done then is said, okay, how do we get the proper immune system so that when we get a vaccine, if you get a vaccine, not saying you are going to get a vaccine, but if you get a vaccine, how can we actually make use of the vaccine so it actually stays in our body for a long time? What we need, you heard me talk about the immunoglobulins. That's the things that actually makes those things. And if you can mute yourself, so I don't have, there you go, ask to mute. No, we don't want to unmute, no. If you have a question, go in the chat box. no or oral questions. So that is going to help actually when you get the vaccine, able to make what you need to make with it. T cell is the part that actually helps with the vaccine also to do its part to actually do what it needs to make. So it's actually working. If you don't have enough T cells, you can't actually do the job. And what do they find in? Every COVID-19, the majority of COVID-19 patients have low T cells by the time they have an infection. So we want to boost up that T cells, that specific cells, so if you take the vaccine, it's actually going to work. There's two parts of the immune system in general, the innate and the adaptive. So the immune shield and the T cells work on this side. The immunomax works on this. It means that as soon as you get it, you have enough of the immune system to make it start working until the second one goes. It takes both parts of this to actually make the vaccine work. Now, because of time, I'll do this, is that the other two things I would do is this. We find amazing results with ozone as the #1 thing to balance our immune system, period. Whether you home rectal, you come to the office, getting that gives you the best chance of having the immune system. So we just say one treatment a week before you get the first dose. Lab test, take 4 weeks to come, so get 4 weeks before you get the vaccine. The prep kit a week before. And then a week before, one time an IV of all the vitamins and minerals. So I'm trying to give you all the vitamins and minerals that we know it takes to work the proper immune system out from all the different studies I'm seeing. Then you get the vaccine, it says there. And again, be grateful for the vaccine. And then what we did was we put together a side effect kit. So because there's so many people getting side effects of it, what can we do? So because of pain at the site of injection or joint pains, we want to use this hemp seed oil cream, got good results. The fatigue of the body, the headaches is a mitochondrial issue. So that's the power fuel. And again, inflammation, that's the SPM actives. And while you get the vaccine, you wait for the second dose, get some more IVs once a week. Then you get your second dose. Then keep the IVs going for 2 weeks. Keep the prep going. If you have side effects, use the side effects. And then you're done. And you can go back to ozone if you want to, if you're doing it before. If you have autoimmune, you add that. So to keep it simple, some lab tests, some supplements. And then if you want to do some of the high-tech stuff, ozone IVs, I think they're great. It's going to help you much better. And then help you with any side effects. Any question on the protocol? That I just went over there. If not, the people who've asked questions have been very, very patient. So let's do the questions now. So thank you for that. Okay. So here's a question. If a person typically doesn't get vaccines and is considering one, particularly for people in their 70s. So it depends on how you react to different things, vaccines and other things. I have not seen one better for a certain age group than another one yet. I will say this. If you're in line to get a vaccine, we've probably heard about the reactions of the vaccine in California, right? The Moderna vaccine. Write this down. I will find it. 41L20A. 41L20A. That's the lot number that the Moderna vaccine came from that got a little bit more reactions than the other lots. That one went to 37 states and 1,700 treatment centers. So I don't know if it came to Ohio or not, but I'd be more cautious if I was getting that lot number. So in terms of, okay, my opinion would be this. If someone was 70 or higher, I would definitely do whatever you could to boost up your immune system. Decrease the stress that I'm talking about, the exercise, enough sleep, proper nutrition. And if you wanted to add the other things, you could, supplements, IVs, etc. Because we know people below the age of 70, people above the age of 65 have less of an immune system than above the age of 65. That's why they have to give high dose flu vaccines or other things to people who are above the age of 65. Okay. So Alexandra asks, your mom is nervous because it's been rushed too fast without many studies. So I would say this. When I look at what the US did versus the other countries were launching it in phase 2, and we actually launched it after phase 3. And the average vaccine study has 21,000 people. Ours was 74,000 people. What's interesting, I was talking to a nurse today as a patient. She works at a nursing home. She was saying that her and the people that got the vaccine and the nursing home patients, they had a relief in them. They had a little bit less fear about COVID-19, a little bit more pep in their step. That's what we call it. And things were a lot different in the nursing home. I said, and I wrote that down, decrease fear. So if people are having a lot of fear of the vaccine, or a lot of fear about COVID, the question you should ask yourself is, how much fear would go away if you got COVID? Oh, now I have antibodies, or if you got the vaccine. So I know for like one of my family members, they felt a lot better getting the vaccine. She's like, you know what? I got the vaccine. So it gives her a sense of confidence that they're willing to put up with a couple days of sickness, because then that's a lot less stress for them, which pulls down the immune system. So that's my advice, is that I think to Alexandra, there's this movie. There's two kids talking, like age 10 and age 6. And the 6-year-old was scared to ride her bike or something. And then the 10-year-old's like, was a big brother, big sister, whatever. And the older one, the 10-year-old's like, you know, I know you're scared of riding your bike, just do it anyways, right? At the end of the day, to some degree, I don't want fear to stop you. I want science to. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't let fear stop you from changing your food plan to sleeping earlier, sleeping later, or whatever you want to do in life. I'm not talking about the vaccine, just in general. So Shirley asks, if you have Sjogren's is an autoimmune disease, and sensitive to drugs, is it safe to take the vaccine? So this is a classic person that I would measure your IgG levels with. So that's the Wheat-Zoomer test, because that's the part, the IgE level. That's the immune system, that's the allergy part. If that's too high, and now you're sensitive, you can't metabolize the inactive ingredient or the preservatives, the PEG, you're the one who's gonna get the reaction. So I would make sure that my IgE levels was normalized. And I'd make sure my liver was normalized. So the whole detox, like lymph 2 and 3, et cetera. Oh no, my computer's almost out of power. Give me one sec. Okay, I'm back. Can people hear me? Okay, good. Thumbs are amazing. Okay. Next question is, and so again, if you have Sjogren's sensitive to things, I'd make sure you take your leaky gut stuff. So like the GI Complete. The Immune Shield can cover both leaky gut and help with that. So that might be one supplement that covers both. The question, would one vaccine be enough? So it's like, if I have a car, would 2 tires be enough to drive a car? You need 4 tires. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I mean, the data is not good with just one vaccine. So Jennifer asked, is it better to avoid the spike proteins concerning with infertility? So here's something interesting. And I think everyone's about the age 18 here, right? So let's talk about interesting first, and then we'll go into the big picture. So big picture is this. The CDC does not recommend unprotected sex for 28 days after the vaccine. And the reason is they don't know what would happen to a fetus. Not enough data. Probably nothing. With that being said, they don't want you to have intercourse, have a baby form, yada, yada, right? During that period of time at higher levels. So it's better to avoid the spike proteins if you're concerned with infertility. There's no data on that yet. So I don't know on that. Angie asked, how long do the vaccines last for? We don't know. And it depends. Like, and you guys are my nerds, which I love it. So you know, we can talk real, right? It depends on your IgG levels. Depends on your IgA levels. That's how we measure those things. And then it gives me a better sense. Your T cell counts, right? So the question came up last time and this time too. If you get the vaccine and you get exposed to someone, can you still be contagious? I found the data on that. So called mucous membranes. That's our nose, our sinuses, our throat, and our GI tract is the mucous membranes. And they make something of the IgA molecules, the A's. And that's what helps protect that area, mucous membranes. So if your IgAs are good enough, then you will not be contagious. However, if you have low IgAs, then you might be contagious after the vaccine because you don't have enough protection yourself to then give off other people. But there's no data yet to say that one way or another. Do I think you're contagious? No, but I'm giving you the functional medicine answer. And we'll end here. very soon after I answer all these questions. I know you guys have been very patient. Well, okay, that one. So the question was from Caroline, I heard from the vaccine, it doesn't keep you from getting COVID. It makes the symptoms less and gets over better. So the Israel study is now refuting that idea. The Pfizer and Moderna studies were pointing to having less severe illnesses. That was their endpoint. Now in the actual field, we're finding less people are actually getting the infection with taking the vaccine. That's one study so far, but it takes more, we'll see, right? The question is from Cindy, we're waiting to hear if we have COVID, but we have symptoms. We're doing your supplement protocol. Any value running a humidifier? A humidifier would be that if you feel congested up here, if you feel congestion in your throat or congestion in your lungs. So I mean, you can't blow out the junk. You can't cough out the junk. You can't cough it out. The humidifier will thin it out so you can blow your nose, cough it out. Then that's when it'll be helpful. What should people do that get the vaccine to help prepare their body to have less inflammation or adverse reactions? Monica, I think I answered that with the our protocol. Carolyn asked, what's the supplement protocol? I think we answered that. Angie says, I was exposed to someone who tested positive for COVID-19, got it, and got some symptoms last Saturday. Okay. Quarantined for 14 days, but no symptoms yet. That doesn't make sense. And got some. So the person who had COVID had some symptoms. You were quarantined for 14 days, didn't get any symptoms. Would you get tested at any time during the 14 days, even if you don't have symptoms? The answer is yes, right? You can have COVID-19, and many people have COVID-19 without symptoms. So yes. So one person said they had COVID, had a pulse ox that really helped. Makes sense. So the question, is there any science surrounding vaccines given to those with low BMI? I have not seen any studies with that. But we do know. What do we know? People who are obese. Obese is defined like a BMI of 30. I think maybe the new guidelines are 28. Have inflammation. Have inflammation, what does that mean? Imbalanced immune system. Imbalanced immune system means you may not be optimized to make the best effect of the vaccine if you take it, or if you get any infection, your immune system is not balanced. So if you are obese, it's great to get back into the normal weight. And we're glad to help that if people need to. Would an ion biome serve as the same defense? I don't know this ion biome, NUZUM. What are your thoughts on the antibody treatment? Great question, Anne. So let's talk about data, right? The Mayo Clinic's doing it, Houston's doing it. They found that people with high risk of getting severe illnesses, if they got COVID, they would get hospitalized at a rate of 15%. So like, like low risk, medium risk, high risk. So high risk. When they were getting the antibodies treatment, those high-risk people drop down to 6%. So you're talking over 50% improvement of the high-risk people not getting hospitalized if they have antibody treatment. The problem is these variants are making the antibody treatment work less effective now. Both Mayo is saying that, and the Houston clinics that have a lot of people are saying that. That's why it's more important than ever to take care of your health. I would still look at the antibody treatment. If you get sick, it's not used a lot, but it's very good. Angie asks, how are they testing for the variants? I do not know. Are they showing the percentage of each variant? I'm not sure. I think Dwayne asked, is this still only 0.1% of those vaccinated, right? I don't know what that question refers to. Does that mean side effects or the general population? If we're saying the severe side effects, it's less than 1%. If we're saying general side effects, I think in 30 to 50% of people are getting some side effects based on the Johnson & Johnson numbers I'm reading, at least 25. So BBLAI, I think that's Veronica, and the mRNA virus is not live. It's not. So Lisa wanted to know the prep kit. I think, Lisa, we went over that. And the side effect kit, there's the link. Jordan, if you can put the link again down there in the chat box, just in case. Angie, you are welcome for sharing the information. So I guess Angie was saying that her aunt got the Moderna vaccine and works in healthcare, had to take 2 days off because of muscle aches, fatigues, et cetera. Yep, that's what I'm hearing. Lymph node swelling, yep, we see that too. So Mary asked, why is there such a controversy over vaccines? I think the controversy over a lot of things is lack of trust. And I think ways of talking about things, and I don't know. You know, I think that that's a bigger question for sitting down and having tea. I can't think about it. I'm not a philosopher. Is it safe to take the vaccine if a person has previously failed allergy immunotherapy with severe reaction? That's a question I would ask Liz to an allergist, an allergy immunologist. Because you failed their allergy immunotherapy, so I don't know what that means. That could be that you don't have enough IgGs or those bullets. So someone, Aaron said, if you consider yourself a very healthy person, lifestyle, exercise, supplements, diets, would you ever consider the vaccine? The answer is, my answer is, sorry, would I ever consider the vaccine? My answer is yes. My family members have gotten the vaccine, right? It's not an all or none thing. Yes, vaccine for everyone, vaccine for no one. Amy asks, what's the antibody treatment for what is, so it's just called monoclonal antibodies. I don't know exactly what it is because I don't do it in the office, but I think they take the antibodies for people that have gotten over the COVID infection, do something with those, and give it to other people. And therefore then because the person's immune system can't do its job, so it's giving someone else's immune system to do the job for it. Brenda, you're welcome. So let's end there. I think my voice is getting a little bit hoarse too. I have a friend with COVID, not improving. So it is not, so Caroline asks, is it too late to use a protocol? There is not. So Caroline, we do have symptom relief protocols for COVID also. And if you contact the office, they can give that to you. Or if you put down your email or anything in the chat box, Jordan or someone will get that. Amy asks, we haven't heard anything about the flu. Are all these cases being coded COVID instead of the flu? Don't know. Angie says to everyone, you've done the ozone therapy and you believe in it. Thank you for saying that. I love it. It's been beneficial, very beneficial. The reason why we looked at ozone was because of my friend, Mark Hyman. Some of you guys have heard of him in the podcast and books. Mark has said that ozone saved his life, literally. And he says it on the podcast and other things. So when him and I were talking, things that I should think about adding to my patients, they said ozone. And so it's been amazing for our patients, for immune system and overall health, anti-aging. Aaron, you're welcome. So Caroline, I got that. We will contact you regarding the that stuff. So in the chat box, last thing for your last homework is for symptom relief. Write down one thing you learned or one thing you're going to do based off of this webinar. So that's great. And these, Angie asked, I don't know if it's a question, does ozone decrease stress? There is some studies that say yes for that because it helps with inflammation. That's great, Lisa, Liz, great stuff. Putting some answers in there. And great stuff, Heather. And again, stress is here. Stress reduction is here. Bliss, joyous is here. So it's like you're climbing a mountain. You have stress at the base. The peak is bliss. Don't shoot for stress reduction. It's like climbing up halfway the mountain and say like, I reached the peak. You didn't. Find the joy. Find the happiness. That's what life's about. Great. So write down on a piece of paper or in your computer or on your cell phone, whatever action step you said that you're going to take. And what does the research say? You have to take that action step within 2 days. If you don't take one step towards that in the next 2 days, the chances of you doing anything about it is this. So take one step for that tonight or tomorrow morning. That will be your success. That's worth all my time and all the technical difficulties and stuff, these other things. That makes it worth it for me, right? So I was talking to Jordan. They're helping with the marketing, milestone marketing. And why was the first question I asked today? I don't want this to be theory. I want you guys to use this information, right? Then it's worth my time. Otherwise, it's just a waste of my time then. I'd rather watch sports. I know my Cleveland Browns are out, but that's okay. I can still do other sports things. But does that make sense, right? Excellent. So very, very last question, I promise. If you guys had a topic you wanted me to cover in a future webinar, write in the chat box. Something that you would love for us to talk about, you got question and answers on, whatever. I see cancer. Stress reduction. SIBO. Autoimmune. And Jordan, please make a note of all these. If you don't write it here, do it in our social media, or if this is linked to YouTube, in the YouTube comments, we'll find it. Recovering from surgery. Brain fog, dementia, supplements to prevent autoimmune disease. When I saw brain fog, I thought I said frog. I was like, frog catching? I was like, I'm not an expert at frog catching. But thank God I said brain fog. I know something about that. Okay, I'm seeing smiling faces. This is good, right? We had fun, right? This is about fun, learning, empowering you, right? So you guys understand how effective the vaccines are. 95%, that's really good. The federal government was gonna prove something at 50%. We have the best vaccine in the country on the effectiveness that I've seen in the world. It does cause some side effects. Severe is very minimal. There's things that you can do to do it. Take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine, empower yourself. Got it? You guys are awesome. This is why I do it. Okay? I even see some claps. I think we're clapping for my Cleveland Browns. I think that's what I'm clapping for. No? But thank you guys. Yeah, we'll figure out how to keep helping. I really love doing this stuff, but it does take a lot of time and effort. So we're gonna figure out how to do this. Okay, I will sign off from here. Everyone have a good night. And you guys know how to reach me through the office if you need to. My team will get those things to me that are relevant, etc. Everyone have a great night.